This little girl named Hien-Hyu-ep noticed 5 red strings above her father's head. One connected to her mother and another to her aunt. Innocently, she drew what she saw. Her mother, who had long suspected something, saw the drawing and went completely mad. She killed her husband and then vanished without a trace. As the girl grew older, she slowly began to understand the true meaning of those red strings. They symbolized physical relationships. Some people were connected to only one other person, while others were linked to half the city. Only she could see these dangerous secrets. She soon realized that this ability might bring deadly consequences. Out of fear, she chose to shut her eyes, say nothing, and tried to let go of everything, even attempting suicide. But fate seemed to mock her. Every attempt failed. One day, she decided that if she couldn't die, she had to uncover the origin of these strings, find out who was behind them, and see if anyone else shared her cursed eyes. She wanted to find a way to end it all, even if it meant facing the unknown. Just then, there was a knock at the door. A woman claiming to be a new neighbor came with a fruit basket. She stayed silent inside. The woman gently reminded her to eat the fruit before it spoiled, then left. Meanwhile, the police received a report. A 29-year-old cafe worker had been strangled to death in her apartment. Detective Han from the police department investigated the scene. The victim was a 29-year-old woman living alone, previously a manager at a nearby cafe. Her parents lived in the countryside. She had no siblings and had broken up with her boyfriend a year ago. Though her room was messy, everything was placed neatly. The body was cleaned up meticulously, arranged like a stage. The night before, a man wearing a helmet was seen in the hallway, appearing to be a delivery man, but no food had been ordered. Nothing was stolen and there were no signs of assault. The motive became more unclear. Investigators suspected the killer wasn't after money or lust, but was driven by a more complex psychological reason. The case made the news. Reporters revealed it was the 3rd murder of a single woman living alone in the same community in a short span. The police had made no progress. Fear and suspicion swept through the streets. In this suffocating atmosphere, Hien felt danger closing in. As a young woman living alone, she matched the victim profile. What she didn't know was that she was about to face the horrifying truth behind these cases. Her eyes were drawn to a detail on the news broadcast. A man with a helmet had only 1 red string above his head. While people with hundreds of strings were rare, she remembered that those with only 1 were far more dangerous. Just then, the sound of a motorcycle roared outside. She looked down and was shocked to see the same helmeted man with a single red string slowly walking into the apartment across from hers. Her heart clenched in fear. Her intuition told her this man was the serial killer. She quickly grabbed her phone, trying to call the police. But the phone, unused for too long, was already dead. In a panic, she immediately plugged it into the charger. Her eyes stayed fixed on the window. The man disappeared into the hallway. Then she saw the man entered the apartment of the new neighbor. Finally, the phone powered on. The screen lit up. With trembling hands, she dialed the police. Suddenly, through the window, she saw the man hugging the female neighbor. Their expressions were relaxed and natural, like familiar lovers. Soon, a second red thread appeared on the man's head, linking him to the female neighbor. The next morning, Han received a call from a colleague. The colleague mentioned the crucial report from last night. It described a man wearing a helmet. Even more disturbing, the delivery man's suspect had never been made public. That meant the caller could be an eyewitness. But when his colleague entered the reported location, and it showed the name of Han's apartment building, Han's heart skipped a beat, because that was his own residence. After hanging up, he stood by the window, his eyes falling on the sealed window across the way. With questions in mind, he walked to the neighbor's door and knocked gently. Behind the door, her heart pounded. It was her first time seeing a person up close with so many densely tangled red threads above their head. A neighbor walked by, coldly reminding him not to bother. That girl is a well-known shut-in around here. Even his trash gets taken out by someone else. Still, Han didn't give up and knocked again. Eventually, after what felt like forever, the door slowly opened a crack. Half a face appeared. Hien said, "I made a mistake reporting it." Han frowned and asked for details. She responded with a slightly trembling voice. The girl said she had seen a helmeted man enter the apartment of the girl, thinking she was in danger, but soon she realized they were actually a couple. The girl's identity catched Han's interest. That night, she was awakened by the familiar sound of a motorcycle engine. But this time, the man didn't enter the opposite building like the night before. Instead, he slowly stepped into her building. Holding her breath, she silently crept to the door. Peeking through the peephole, she saw the helmeted man walk slowly past. Above his head, there was only a single red string. It clearly wasn't the man who had gone into the neighbor's apartment the night before. Han's partner discovered that both female victims in the serial murders had some interaction with the same man. The mysterious man lived in the complex, just a few steps from the crime scene. Even more coincidentally, one of the victims was seen with him just a few weeks prior at a gym. Han saw a photo. It was the same man who had spoken to him the other day. The timeline of events aligned too well, making all those coincidences suddenly feel suspicious. Determined to investigate, Han decided to look into it himself. Just before leaving, he received a call. The nearby nursing home reported something strange. An elderly patient's caretaker had mysteriously vanished. Han went to the nursing home to look for his father, while his partner headed to room 303 to investigate. At room 303, he found the door unlocked. He stepped inside. In a red-colored room, he saw lots of ropes. Just as he was about to call Han with the update, the killer attacked him. Sensing something was wrong, Han rushed towards room. After taking down Han's friend, the killer put on his helmet again, ready to take care of the next target. Hearing the noise, Hyun-Hyuk saw the helmeted man heading toward the building. She tried to call the police, but her phone was dead again. At this moment, she faced the most important choice of her life: stay silent to protect herself, or step up to save innocent lives. This time, she chose to be brave. She burst out of her safe house, determined to stop the next tragedy. But as soon as she stepped out, her body trembled with fear and tension. Suddenly, her knees buckled and her vision went black. She collapsed powerlessly to the ground. Meanwhile, a female neighbor heard the doorbell. She opened the door, thinking it was her boyfriend. But when she saw the killer in the helmet, she froze. He grabbed the woman's neck with both hands, his eyes filled with madness. The woman struggled desperately but was losing strength. Just then, Hyun-Hyuk appeared at the doorway, clutching a knife in her hand. He looked up at her and sneered. He approached her step by step, his mocking tone like a knife piercing her heart. Her breath quickened, her hands shaking so much she could barely hold the knife. The man grabbed the knife and plunged it into her abdomen. She collapsed in pain to the ground. He then turned back toward the woman. At that critical moment, the woman grabbed a pillow and slammed it into his glasses. Blinded, the man froze, then fell to the ground, scrambling around madly on the floor. The woman took the chance to rush to the door, knelt beside Hyun-Hyuk, and screamed her name in desperation. At the same time, Han arrived. As soon as he got out of the car, he noticed a pair of sunglasses lying quietly on the ground. He recognized them as Hyun-Hyuk's. His heart tightened, and he quickly ran upstairs. Her front door required verification. Han forced the door open and entered. He was stunned by what he saw. The walls were covered in dense blood donation records. Suddenly, a sharp scream came from afar. He turned his head abruptly, and through the window, saw a fierce struggle happening in the building opposite. Han's gaze turned cold. He quickly drew his gun, steadied it with both hands, and pulled the trigger. The gunshot tore through the night. The bullet shattered the window glass and hit the killer's body. Later, Han returned the sunglasses to her. Looking at them, she recalled what the killer said before he died. It seemed the man, like her, could also see the red threads. She remembered how frantically he searched for his glasses. Could it be that the glasses allowed him to see the red lines? The next moment, Han's niece, Sana, saw Hyun-Hyuk and appeared to recognize her. Sana told her uncle that they both were classmates. Years ago, her mother had a breakdown under a streetlight and killed her husband with her own hands. After that, she vanished. In the stillness of the night, Hyun had a thought for the first time. Maybe the red lines she could see weren't just a curse, but could be the key to saving others. Suddenly, her phone screen lit up. A message from a dangerous number popped up. "I can see the world you see too." She stared at the screen, took a deep breath, stood up, and began tearing down the boards that sealed her window. In that moment, her eyes showed no sign of the usual fear, only a new, unwavering determination. She was ready to respond to whoever had sent that message. The next day, Sana went to school and found that the class queen bee had read aloud a love letter she had written to her crush. Enraged, Sana lunged at her, but the teacher quickly intervened and broke up the fight. After school, she discovered a pair of glasses in her locker. It was the same pair that had belonged to the killer. Though the serial murder case had just concluded, the real horror was only beginning. Han was deeply confused. He couldn't understand the killer's motive. The women he killed all had some connection to him, which on the surface seemed like a revenge crime, but the pattern of his targets made no sense. Why now, and not a year ago? With these questions in mind, Han returned to the killer's apartment. The walls were covered in dense red strings and horrifying patterns. At the same time, Sana, wearing the glasses, saw a red string above her head. She instinctively tried to touch it, but it was like a phantom, impossible to grasp. Just then, her uncle returned, and she noticed his head was covered in countless red strings. Terrified, she let out a scream and ran out the door. Hyun-hyuk happened to pass by and noticed Sana's frightened expression and how her eyes were fixed on the top of his head. A sense of suspicion rose in her heart. Could this girl also see the red strings? Sana put on the glasses, and in an instant, her world changed dramatically. Countless red threads descended from the sky. Back at school, she began to notice how those seemingly perfect people were entangled in a web of red threads. The bully who had humiliated her also had a red string above her head, which led directly to the office of a teacher named Mr. Out of curiosity, she followed the red line to the office door and saw the string connected to his head. This discovery made her realize it was time for revenge. In class, the homeroom teacher introduced a new student. When asked to introduce herself, she remained silent, crushing everyone's expectations. The teacher awkwardly tried to smooth over the moment as she quietly took her assigned seat. That night, Han went to a bar, showed a photo, and asked the staff if they had seen the man in the picture. The staff recognized him as a regular but said he hadn't been around recently. In their memory, he used to sit quietly in the corner, drink his wine, and leave without a word. But then, he started talking to himself more and more, whispering numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, over and over with a strange obsession. The staff assumed he was drunk, but every time he left, he seemed unusually sober. Then, one day, he got into a fight with other customers during a visit, still murmuring, 25, 26, unit 27 again. The atmosphere in the bar turned eerily strange. Some said he wore glasses that day. Meanwhile, Sana was following the bully. After seeing her meet Miss Lee, she followed them into a hotel and took photos of them together. The power of controlling her own fate thrilled her. She could finally get revenge on those who hurt her. She sent the photos to the bully, but the bully wasn't scared at all, saying she was a minor, and it was Miss Lee who would face trouble, not her. The next day, Sana sent the photos to Mr. Lee, threatening him to pay 20 million won in hush money. Mr. Lee fell into a deep panic. As a middle-aged man with a family, he knew the consequences. He would lose not only his job, but his family and his entire social standing. Sana planned to take the money and leave. She hated the neighborhood, hated the people, and felt like she never had a real family. When Hyun-hyuk mentioned her uncle, Sana sneered. He was a police officer who was always absent, and in her eyes, never counted as family. She had long believed she would have to live on her own one day. As the atmosphere grew tense, Sana asked about Hyun-hyuk's mother. A flash of confusion passed through her eyes. The next day, Miss Lee told the bully about receiving the photo. The bully said Sana was behind it. At school, her behavior grew increasingly bizarre. She often wore the glasses and watched others with an unsettling smile. Hyun-hyuk took note of her increasingly strange behavior. As time went on, Sana's threats became more direct. She was no longer satisfied with just money. She wanted to destroy those who had hurt him. Later in the restroom, Hyun-hyuk bumped into her. She asked if Sana had always worn glasses, but she coldly replied that her vision had worsened recently. Hyun didn't believe her and pressed further. Could the glasses be hiding a secret? Sana was stunned, waves stirring in her heart. Hyun-hyuk cautiously asked, "Can you also see the red thread?" Sana looked up coldly and gave a blunt answer. Then she began speaking faster, finally revealing the hidden relationship network in the school. One student had 5 threads above their head. The bully had 2, one of which was connected to teacher Lee. Her pupils contracted slightly, heart pounding. She wondered where these glasses truly came from. Sana sneered and said she didn't care who originally owned the glasses. What mattered to her now was that the glasses gave her the power to see everyone's secret. After school, Sana walked home with Hyun-hyuk. She curiously asked her how to remove the red threads. She remained silent for a moment, then replied in a low voice, "If the person dies, the thread disappears." Sana smirked. She just learned a secret that excited her. Meanwhile, Sana received a message from Mr. Lee. He said that he had prepared the 20 million won and told her to meet on the school rooftop at midnight.
Excited, Sana brought her boyfriend and went shopping freely. The class queen had been secretly following them all along. She sarcastically commented, "Of course you'd lose weight if you stole the air conditioner." While Sana was distracted taking photos under the lights, she secretly took her glasses. When Sana realized they were missing, she immediately turned back to search but found nothing. Meanwhile, the queen had already discovered the secret of the glasses. Furious, Sana called Hyun-Hyuk and demanded to know if she had taken them, but her response made her more agitated. She rushed to the school rooftop to meet Lee, who looked exhausted. Days of fear and anxiety had made him visibly thinner. Sana casually remarked it had been a while since she'd been on the rooftop, and pretended it was just a normal meeting, then realized it must have been the class queen who revealed it. When she asked about the money, Mr. Lee sighed and said he couldn't go on like this. Enraging Sana, Lee begged, saying he had a child and another on the way, and asked how his family would survive if he lost his job. He insisted there was no way he could come up with 20 million won with his salary. Sana's expression turned ice cold. He accused Miss Lee of knowing about the bullying and pretending not to see it because of the bully's powerful parents. Now, Mr. Lee wanted to apologize on their behalf, but Sana dismissed it coldly. Realizing an apology wouldn't help, Miss Lee tried to negotiate, offering to have Sana delete the photos and promising to pay her the next day. But just then his phone rang. Someone had sent the incriminating photos to his wife. In despair, Mr. Lee asked if Sana had done it. Then, suddenly, she was pushed from the roof. When Hyun-Hyuk arrived, she saw her falling from the rooftop. The news quickly reached Han, who rushed to the hospital. Outside the operating room, Hyun explained everything in detail, and insisted Sana could not have committed suicide. Later, the hospital director discovered Miss Lee had gone missing, and no one could reach him by phone. The director was furious, blaming it on negligence in student management, even going so far as to make a cruel remark, saying that if someone wanted to die, they shouldn't choose to do it at school. A younger teacher immediately argued back, emotionally accusing him of being heartless, and reminded everyone that the student was still alive. The argument between the two escalated quickly, filled with mutual blame and attempts to shirk responsibility, creating a tense atmosphere in the office. Meanwhile, on the school rooftop, Hyun-Hyuk was alone searching for clues, as if trying to piece together the truth behind Sana's fall from every small detail. Just then, a girl's voice came from behind. It was a student from another class. She said coldly that she knew Sana, and that she was not the kind of girl who would give up on life so easily. She revealed that Sana had been bullied by the class queen for a long time, and strangely, the very day after she fell, the class queen was absent from school. Everything seemed extremely suspicious. She analyzed and concluded that the most suspicious person in a case is often the one closest to the victim. Her reasoning, like a knife, slowly pried open the truth that was hidden. At that moment, she mentioned the glasses Sana had picked up earlier. At the same time, back in the office, the atmosphere remained subdued. A teacher named Kim Jung-woo casually noticed a pair of glasses on the desk and asked whose they were. No one knew for sure, but a colleague jokingly said the glasses suited him well. Kim Jung-woo, half believing, put them on, never expecting that this small action would lead him to discover the glasses' hidden secret. Just then, Han entered the room and immediately approached Sana's homeroom teacher to ask about her situation. The teacher, looking ashamed, quietly apologized and blamed herself for not recognizing the emotional state of the student sooner. Han also inquired about the student who had bullied her. The homeroom teacher looked troubled. The teacher revealed that the student in question is currently missing, a statement that immediately froze the room in tension. He then mentioned that a photo was found in Sana's backpack, seemingly taken on the same day of the incident. Han began questioning a boy. When interrogated, the boy calmly claimed that he and Sana were just ordinary classmates. But when asked about the photo they took together, he finally admitted that it was Sana who had asked him out. He described their meetup at a cafe, where things nearly progressed into something more intimate, but Sana stopped him. He also recalled that after taking the photo together, Sana suddenly ran off in a panic, muttering about something she had lost. That detail made Han even more suspicious. He checked the surveillance footage from the day Sana fell. After she and her boyfriend parted ways, the class queen, the one who had bullied her, suddenly appeared on camera, carrying a bag that wasn't hers. The footage showed her entering a small alley and never coming out. Meanwhile, Kim Jong-woo returned to his sister's house. His brother-in-law couldn't help but ask why, after preparing for a wedding, he had ended up breaking off the engagement. Kim Jong-woo, looking pained, revealed the truth. On the eve of the wedding, he came home early and caught his fiancée cheating with his best friend. His brother-in-law paused, then smiled and said he was lucky to have discovered the betrayal before marrying, that it was a blessing from above. Later, as the two of them took the elevator together, Kim Jong-woo noticed something strange, a red thread extending from the top of his brother-in-law's head, leading to the fourth. His brother-in-law instinctively pressed the button for the fourth floor, but then panicked and quickly cancelled it, switching to the 10th floor instead. That tiny moment confirmed Kim Jong-woo's growing suspicion. The next day, outside his sister's door, Kim Jong-woo spotted a package labeled for. His sister casually said the delivery guy must have gotten the address wrong, and was about to call the front desk, but Kim volunteered to return it. As he placed the package in front of Unit 401, he ran into the female tenant. They exchanged some small talk. Kim then asked why his brother-in-law always stayed late at the factory, and suggested his sister should take better care of herself, especially since her husband earned well. The conversation then turned to past wounds. His sister mentioned that after their parents died, the two of them had only each other to rely on. She hoped that in the future, Kim wouldn't reconnect with the family that had caused their mother so much pain. In silence, Kim Jong-woo remembered his own past, how he once forgave his ex-fiancée's betrayal, simply because he wanted to keep the family together, just like his mother had tried to do. But over time, he realized that the relationship had become unbearable. Every time he looked at his lover's face, his father's image would rise up, unrelenting. In the end, he chose to separate. He confessed that even now, he still hasn't let go of those feelings, and he deeply longs to see his ex again. But the shadow of his father clung to him like a curse, until there was no turning back. The next day, photos of Mr. Lee and the class queen were posted on the school website. Mr. Lee, who had been missing for several days, was found dead inside his car. A shocking suicide note was also found inside the vehicle. The content of the note was like a bombshell. He confessed to having an inappropriate relationship with the class queen. This single sentence completely destroyed the image of a respected teacher. The note was filled with deep regret and despair, and between the lines, one could sense his pain and helplessness, leaving everyone who read it heavy-hearted. However, the circumstances of his death were highly suspicious. His car was parked right in the center of the school parking lot, an obvious location, yet it wasn't discovered for 3 days. Under normal circumstances, it would have been impossible for anyone entering or leaving the parking lot to miss it. Later, Kim Jong-woo unexpectedly ran into his brother-in-law on the road. He quickly hailed a cab to follow him. The brother-in-law went to a restaurant to meet his girlfriend for a date. Kim Jong-woo immediately called his brother-in-law to ask where he was, but he lied, saying he was busy with work, and quickly hung up. When the two of them went to a hotel room, Kim Jong-woo knocked on the door and angrily dragged his brother-in-law out, demanding to know what he was doing. Panicking, the brother-in-law tried to explain that it was all a misunderstanding. Faced with sharp questioning, he finally lowered his head and admitted his unfaithfulness. He begged for some time to resolve everything, and pleaded with Kim not to tell his sister. With a cold expression, Kim only said, "You have 7 days to fix this, or I don't know what I'll do." The next day, as Kim Jong-woo prepared to leave for Canada, he reminded his sister to contact him if anything happened. Back at school, while receiving some items, Kim casually checked the girl's social media and discovered that she was pregnant. This enraged him. He rushed home and saw his sister furiously ramming her car into Guo Kaoling's vehicle. He quickly pulled the car door open, trying to calm his sister down. Meanwhile, Han studied Mr. Lee's suicide note. Suddenly, something clicked. He rushed home and pulled out Sana's diary. From there, he found a lid and contacted Hyun. She seemed stunned. Back in class, she had a nightmare about Sana's vengeful spirit and woke up screaming. After class, the class monitor and another student invited her out during break to clear her mind, but she coldly refused. Her reason was simple. She was going to work part-time at a motel. Han suspected that the class queen had pushed Sana and then fled. But strangely, all of her bank transactions and phone records had gone completely dark, as if she had vanished from the world. A partner proposed another possibility. Perhaps it was Mr. Lee, who pushed Sana, and overcome with guilt, committed suicide. After all, his phone's last location was near the school, but the next day, it was revealed. Mr. Lee suffered from severe fear of heights. Still, Han firmly believed that Sana would never commit suicide. Not out of stubbornness, but because she had picked up on many abnormalities in the case. He recalled that after Sana put on those glasses, her personality had changed drastically. His partner grew curious about the glasses and quietly revealed, whoever wears them can see who's had sexual relations with whom. The next day, a student and the class monitor went to a motel to visit Hyun-hyu. But just then, the motel door opened. A woman wearing a wig and with a strange expression walked in to rent a room. Han received a call from the nursing home. His father had gone missing again. After checking the surveillance footage, Han was shocked to discover that the person who took his father was actually Sana's homeroom teacher. Moments later, he received a photo of Sana on his phone. Panicked, he rushed to the hospital. Thankfully, Sana was still there. But just then, he noticed the red string above her head began to move. His nerves immediately tensed up. He raised his gun toward the door. The door slowly creaked open, and someone stepped in. Someone he never expected. It was his father, the same one who was supposedly taken from the nursing home. Han froze in place, staring in disbelief at the scene before him. He took off his glasses, put them back on, but no matter how many times he looked, the red string was still there, clearly connecting the two of them. At that moment, the truth revealed its cruelest form. He lost control and shoved the man to the ground, shouting, "What did you do to Sana?" The man replied weakly, "It wasn't something I wanted to do." Meanwhile, Hyun-hyu had called the class leader and asked for help. They met up and went to a motel. After 5 minutes, a red string appeared above both of their heads. The class leader suggested they go eat something. She nodded, but reminded him that the last bus would arrive soon. The class leader hesitated, then asked her to wait there while he ran to buy a cake. He hurried along the street. She stood at the street corner, when suddenly a sharp scream rang out from afar. She looked up, alarmed, and realized that the red string above his head had silently disappeared. A deep unease spread through her chest. She quickly followed the direction of the crowd. Everyone around her looked shocked and frightened. Pushing through the crowd, what met her eyes was the body of the class leader, lying in a pool of blood. He had been impaled by a falling steel bar. Then her phone suddenly received a video. She received a chilling message from the kidnapper. He immediately questioned her. "Do you know who Sana's red string is connected to?" There was no more room for doubt. She didn't avoid the question. She replied that if she had known earlier, she definitely wouldn't have kept it a secret. After a moment of silence, the tone shifted. She brought up something seemingly unrelated that had always weighed on her mind. Every year on her birthday, she would receive an anonymous card. Han looked at the video and message on his phone, then took the information straight to the school. The eyes shown in the video of the unconscious person were clearly his. This reminded Han of the homeroom teacher. He had once asked his colleague to investigate the teacher, but the search came up empty. No such person existed. Determined to uncover the truth, he headed to the school himself. As he neared the entrance, he noticed that the classroom lights were still on. He rushed into the classroom. Hyun-hyu led her classmate out of the classroom, but quickly noticed Han, who had been behind them, was now gone. But as they ran down the stairs, they were met with a terrifying sight. No matter what they did, they couldn't leave the school. It was as if the entire structure was cursed. No matter how many stairs they descended, they always ended up back on the same floor. Hyun-hyu led to the rooftop, hoping to find a way out. But the whole building was empty, with unnatural silence in all directions. At the same time, Han found himself in a mysterious space. The true mastermind finally revealed himself. The homeroom teacher stepped out from the shadows. She appeared ordinary on the outside, but her eyes revealed an intelligence beyond human. It turned out, all the mysterious events were orchestrated by her. Those strange glasses, they were tools used to select specific individuals. And behind those glasses, it was a plan far greater and more terrifying than anyone imagined. She once told the woman who had received the glasses, very soon, humans would no longer need them to see the red strings. Love and hate, loyalty and betrayal, all would be laid bare under broad daylight. When that time comes, humanity will lose trust in one another, and also lose its final shred of modesty. The woman began a ruthless killing spree, murdering every person she had ever had a connection with, just to sever the red strings. As each string vanished, her sanity slowly collapsed. But what replaced it was an overwhelming sense of thrill and excitement. Then, the homeroom teacher slowly stepped forward and suddenly revealed a familiar face. Han realized it was his father. He rushed forward in shock, but the homeroom teacher handed a knife to Han. Moments later, the homeroom teacher turned and killed Han's father with her own hand. Filled with rage, Han opened fire, but even though he hit the teacher, it had no effect at all. Then, chaos erupted. Hyun-Hyupi and Lee began to fight. In the struggle, she suddenly ripped off Lee's glasses and stomped them into pieces. At the moment the lenses shattered, Lee suddenly froze. The twisted expression on her face slowly softened, as if she had just been released from some form of mental control. Now she seemed disoriented, completely unaware of the chaos just moments before. At that point, she noticed Hyun-Hyup's eyes had changed color, and she too realized something. The blood dripping from the knife was floating in midair, drifting towards some unknown direction. In the very next second, she was pulled into that mysterious space, where she witnessed the homeroom teacher preparing to kill Han. She immediately shouted to stop it. She couldn't understand why the homeroom teacher was doing that. Then, just as the homeroom teacher raised the knife, Hyun-Hyup's mother suddenly appeared, blocking the fatal blow. She gently called her name and choked out an apology, saying she had arrived too late. She finally admitted that she too had once worn those glasses. Overwhelmed with rage, Hyun-Hyup charged at the homeroom teacher, but the teacher stabbed her in the stomach. A large amount of blood poured out, floating upward into the air. Then, suddenly, the sky turned blood red. Everyone, no matter where they were, at that exact moment, gained the ability to see the red threads. At first, humanity reacted with excitement and curiosity, because the red sky looked so magnificent. However, when people realized that different numbers of red threads were floating above each person's head, their initial excitement quickly turned to fear. These threads clearly revealed each person's romantic partner. The number of red threads above each person's head suddenly became a new standard for social hierarchy. Those with a large number of red threads felt deeply ashamed, while those with fewer threads often became targets of envy or even aggression. The entire moral structure and power dynamics of society underwent a fundamental shift overnight. Cries of shock echoed in all directions. Some people tried to cover up their red threads. Others curiously counted how many threads others had. Many more fell into a deep panic. Society plunged into a year-long chaos. Governments struggled to maintain order. Scientists desperately searched for explanations. Religious leaders declared it the day of judgment, but no one could truly understand the root cause of this phenomenon. The institution of marriage was hit the hardest. Once all of a spouse's romantic entanglements became visible, countless families fell apart overnight. The divorce rate skyrocketed to an all-time high. A trend of transparent and contract-based relationships founded on visible red threads began to rise. For her, the drastic change brought a deeply ironic outcome. She finally became what he had always wished for, a completely ordinary person. After losing her unique ability, she was no longer that cursed anomaly. In the midst of this transformational upheaval, a piece of heartwarming news arrived. Sana finally woke up from her long coma. In this world now filled with red threads, she became the only one without a single thread. After such a long time, she quietly visited the cemetery alone. Standing in front of the class monitor's grave, it felt as if she could still hear the sound of his cheerful laughter echoing in her ears. Just as she was about to turn and leave, she suddenly heard someone gently calling her name beside her ear. She turned around abruptly, but saw no one. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Movie Girl for more videos.